Hello everyone, in this video we will discuss about history. Louis Vuitton is the world's most valuable luxury brand, valued at more than $30 billion. Its origins can be traced back to the 19th century, to a homeless adolescent who could only dream of success because he lacked money and food. He worked odd jobs with artisans and craftsmen to make ends meet, but he learned valuable skills that led to him pioneering modern luggage and building a $1 billion empire. Louis Vuitton, born and raised in France in the 19th century to a farmer and hat maker. France was still recovering from the Napoleonic Wars at the time, and many farmers, including veterans, faced bankruptcy. Louis had no choice but to work on the family farm from a young age. He planted and harvested crops, raised animals, and stacked firewood from dusk to dawn. Life became even more difficult for Louis when he turned 10. Louis' mother died, and soon after his father remarried, his stepmother became as evil as the villains in fairy tales. Louis' life was made miserable by her, and he had had enough. Louis quietly slipped away from the farmhouse when he was 13, heading to Paris with no money or food. Fortunately, Louis was able to secure odd jobs with artisans and craftspeople who taught him how to work with metal, stone, fabrics, and whip. Nonetheless, he had insufficient funds for shelter and became homeless. He frequently slept in the woods, but only with a cloak to keep him warm. The first railway line to Paris had just opened at the time. Travel became more accessible, and the industry began to thrive. Craftsmen take advantage of this by creating custom boxes for aristocrats. They frequently traveled with paintings, instruments, and furniture, and required boxes that could accommodate and withstand long journeys. They also required assistance in packing their belongings in a specific manner to prevent them from breaking. Louis decided to try to find work in the trade after learning some of the skills involved on his way to Paris. Fortunately, a craftsman named Michel hired Louis as an apprentice, despite the fact that Louis didn't make much money. His eagerness to learn paid dividends in more ways than one. He quickly became a favorite of Marshall's clients. Later, he was appointed as a personal box maker to the Empress of France. Louis became more in demand after working for the Empress for a year and opened his first shop early on. Louis developed new product concepts that altered the industry standard. Traditional boxes were rectangular in shape and made of leather at the time. The lids were domed to allow water to run off the top rather than soak through the leather. This made stacking the boxes impossible and loading time-consuming. To address these issues, Louis experimented with new materials before settling on canvas. Canvas was lighter, more durable, and water-resistant than leather. This enabled boxes to have simple flat lids, making them stackable and easier to load. While the waterproofing compounds turned the color gray, the canvas material looked more clean and modern. Louis then set out to do the same thing with a new invention: handbags. The Franco-Prussian War broke out at the height of Louis' business. Louis wasted no time in rebuilding his workshop and finding a new shop location, using the remainder of his savings. Fortunately for him, property prices fell as a result of the war. Louis took advantage of the opportunity and bought the shop in an upscale neighborhood. Within months of reopening, the business was thriving once more. George wasted no time in expanding the company and traveled to the United States to attend the World Fair. The experience convinced him that he required an international sales network. Fortunately, he met someone at the fair who could assist John Wanamaker. John invented the price tag and pioneered the concept of the department store. He began selling LV in his New York department store after meeting George. It was the first in the United States to carry the brand. George then designed a monogram in honor of his father, a floral pattern with an interlocking L and phi. Customers were taken aback when they noticed the monogram on the products. They were only used to adorning their own names or initials on bags. But as time passed, the new design caught on. From then on, George and his son Gaston continued to follow Louis' footsteps and created new designs. Noteworthy creations include a bag for everyday use, the Key Paul, a bag to carry wine and champagne the new way, and a redesign of a collection El Commission, the album. By then, George had tours all over the US and built a distribution network. He, like his father, was bound to take the company to new heights. However, history has unfortunately repeated itself. He died, leaving Gaston to finish Louis' unfinished business on his own. Gaston got off to a bad start. Contracts were canceled as the Second World War erupted. Gaston was forced to close the Elvis factory and stores in Louis Vuitton, a French saga. According to the author, Gaston became so desperate for survival that he collaborated with Germany's ruling party. Gaston allegedly gave the go-ahead to produce a commemorative bus and open a shop in Vichy. The author also claims that while Van Cleef & Sharples were closed, LV was the only store allowed to remain open. Later, Louis' spokesperson stated, "This is ancient history." More than 1 million shares of the company's stock were sold. After 2 months, the LV stock price began to fluctuate. Analysts predict a drop in sales because counterfeit goods are on the rise. Nonetheless, Henry persisted in opening stores all over the world. He proved the analysts wrong in a matter of years. LV reached nearly $1 billion in sales and merged with the champagne and cognac producer Moet Hennessy to form the luxury goods conglomerate LVMH. Both companies wanted to avoid the threat of an outside takeover. While the merger enabled LV to increase its investments, Henry became embroiled in management disputes with Moet Hennessy's president Alan Chevalier in the hopes of gaining control. Henry enlisted the help of a property developer named Bernard Arnault, who agreed. But Henry soon realized that Bernard had his own goals. Nonetheless, the collaboration was well received and helped to re-establish both LV and handbags. LV appointed Marc Jacobs as creative director. LV has since expanded into watches, jewelry, and sunglasses, as well as continuing to release iconic bags. In addition, the company continues to manufacture everything in-house. Craftsmen must train for 2 years, and some pieces must be assembled in 300 stages. Today, LV is the world's most valuable luxury brand, with a market capitalization of more than $30 billion. This is the story of how a homeless teenager invented modern luggage and laid the groundwork for a $1 billion empire. Please subscribe to Vlux for more upcoming videos.